And a torrid session of federal parliament has finally come to an end, and while there are still questions hanging over both the Treasurer and the opposition leader, it's Malcolm Turnbull who's facing a lot more uncertainty over the long winter break. In particular, more questions have been asked about the nature of Mr Turnbull's relationship with the Treasury official Godwin Grech, and newspaper reports today suggested he and his Senate Deputy Leader Eric Abetz had met Mr Grech before he gave his sensational evidence to the Senate last Friday. Political editor Michael Brissenden reports.
It's been a week that's transformed politics and possibly political fortunes. From mysterious to Machiavellian, from intrigue to investigation. Like holding an unpredictable Roman candle, no one's known where it was likely to shoot off to next. But once the blue touch paper was lit, there was no going back.
I certainly had the impression that he wasn't your average constituent. But it was certainly my understanding that the initial contact I had with respect to John Grant was from the Prime Minister's office.
If the Prime Minister and the Treasurer cannot immediately justify their actions to the Australian people, they have no choice but to resign.
The member for Wentworth is no longer fit to occupy the office of Leader of the Opposition because he has actively promoted for political gain the contents of an email purporting to be from me, my office, that is entirely false, fictitious and a forgery.
Look, as far as the case that Mr Rudd misled the House about the communication is not sustained.
Not every dealer did seek a conversation, but I do know one thing, that those dealers that contacted my office were dealt with promptly and were dealt with appropriately. Of course they weren't all dealt with by me, you moron. I mean...
Well, I'm sure they have. I mean, Mr Grech is very well known, and I have certainly spoken to Mr Grech. I know Mr Grech.
Just how well Mr Turnbull knows Godwin Grech is still unclear. What we do know is that the surprising testimony we all witnessed last Friday may not have been as spontaneous as it appeared to be. It's been reported that Malcolm Turnbull and the Liberals' Deputy Senate Leader Eric Abetz met with Mr Grech before the committee hearing, and that they were shown the now infamous email and allowed to take notes. Last night on this program, Mr Turnbull pointedly refused to confirm any meetings.
Did you or any other Liberal MP or staffer have contact with Mr Grech between when he gave Senate evidence on June 4 and when he gave that evidence last Friday, June 19?
Kerry, I'm not going to talk about Mr Grech. I understand your interest in it, but this is a distraction from the real issue, which is cronyism and the way the Labor Party looks after its mates rather than managing the economy and managing our finances in the interests of everybody.
The ABC has today confirmed that Mr Turnbull, at least, did meet with Mr Grech between the first committee hearing on June the 4th and the sensational proceedings of last Friday. The government says this raises even more questions about the whole affair.
Did Senator Abetz meet with Mr Grech before the hearings? Did he seek to misuse those hearings? I think he's got to explain, was there a conspiracy involved?
And so I say to my friends in the media and the Labor Party, are you really wanting a senator to breach a confidence and pursue that? Or do you want to pursue a Treasurer that on the own documentation that he has tabled in his flawed defence shows that he has misled the Parliament not once, not twice, but more than half a dozen occasions over the past week or so?
With the support of the Greens in the Senate today, the government tried to get the Senate Privileges Committee to investigate whether Senator Abetz had used the forged email to mislead a Senate hearing. The vote was blocked by the Coalition with the help of the vote of the Family First Senator, Stephen Fielding.
Order. There being 34 ayes, 34 noes, the matter is resolved in the negative.
What I'm concerned about is that the Senate not be put in the position of appearing to be shepherding, defending, protecting, as against the rights of other citizens, any of our number. And I believe that it must be put on the record that senators should not use their numbers to protect themselves from a reference matter to the Privilege Committee.
But getting the numbers on other matters proved difficult for the opposition today. Untidy reminders of the policy differences that are still openly dividing the Liberal Party under Malcolm Turnbull. On the carbon pollution reduction scheme legislation, the opposition took the easy route and backed Nick Xenophon's call to put the vote off until August, a tactic that caused a good deal of puffed-up indignation from the Labor side.
It really is quite embarrassing to watch the contortions you're going through to embarrass yourself, to protect your colleagues. Let the sceptics loose. Let them out. Let's have the votes. Let Barnaby have his vote.
Order.
You want debate?
Order.
You want
Senator Conroy.
In the House, though, the divisions were given a full airing.
Above all, I believe in maintaining detention debt and the raft of features of the former coalition government's immigration measures to ensure that we will forever decide who comes here and the circumstances in which they come.
I have to go to my leader and I have to say to my leader, I cannot support you on this bill. And I have to tell my leader that I think this bill is merciless. I think it's unfair, unjust and ineffectual.
The Detention Debt Bill, legislation to waive all the fees charged to asylum seekers, first introduced by the Labor government in 1992, was passed on the government numbers with the help of the small group of Liberal dissidents for whom this has been a burning issue for years.
God forgive me that I was part of that parliament that did that caused so much distress to so many families over such a long period of time. It was wrong in the Hawke years, it was wrong in the Howard years, and the wrong will be righted today. The wrong will be righted today. This is very hard for us to do, and it should never be misunderstood that when we stand in a place like this to oppose our own party, we do it with great regret and great grief.
It is worth remembering that acts of defiance like this are just not permitted at all by the Labor Party. And regardless of the other distractions of the week, the 4 Liberal dissidents would have voted this way on this issue anyway. But the public divisions, coming as they do at the end of a week that has imploded for their leader, do add to the general feeling of despair in the coalition ranks.
This has been a rough week.
Well, there's better weeks, yes, but these things happen in politics. You get the good with the bad, and if you are seeking to keep the government to account, Malcolm's been enormously effective over debt and deficit, the big issue out there. We've had some problems with this issue this week, but we will regroup and we will take this government to task on the big issues in the months ahead.
Oh yes, debt. We'd almost forgotten about that.
And we also did invite the Treasurer onto the program yet again today for an interview. He's again declined the invitation. And that, incidentally, was political editor Michael Brissenden's final report for this program from Canberra. He's off to Washington for the ABC.